So 1, 2.
Down by the banks of my Black River home, returning to my roots, never more to roam. Springfield, Vermont, bathe me in that Black River, take me home.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of Blue Diligence, a monthly show here on SAPA Television from the Springfield Democratic Town Committee. We're bringing Blue Diligence to you to help make connections between the citizens of Springfield, Windsor County, and our legislators up in Montpelier. We are committed to diligently highlighting Springfield voices. An informed democracy is a strong democracy. I'm your host, Britton. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a really special episode lined up for you, so let's get right to it. Last month, we were proud to sit down with Representatives Alice Emmons and Christy Morris. They explained how the crossover process works in our legislature and gave us some updates on legislation they were working on in their respective committees. Any legislation that is not passed at the end of this session in May will have to start over in 2025, as it will be the end of the biennium. In case you may have forgotten, election season will soon be in full swing. Town meeting day and local elections are over. The presidential election primary confirmed Joe Biden as Vermont's choice for the Democratic presidential nominee and gave Nikki Haley her one and only state victory. August brings us primaries for legislative and statewide offices, and of course, November is the big one. That election will decide who serves in the Vermont legislature, our statewide offices, including governor, our House of Representative, and one Senate seat, but most importantly, we will be voting for our next president. This might be the most consequential election in our nation's history. At times, it seems as though we're more divided than ever before. On top of those divisions are loud voices shouting claims of election fraud, public officials making wild accusations that our elections are crooked and rigged. Many states are fighting to make it more difficult to vote, while others seek to make the process easier. Election officials all over the United States face threats of violence against themselves, their colleagues, and even their families. There's just no doubt that the November national election is going to be fraught with anxiety. So today, we're really grateful to have Secretary of State Sarah Copeland-Hanzus with us. She may not be able to help alleviate all of that anxiety, but she will certainly give us some reassurances about the integrity of our voting system in the great state of Vermont. Secretary Copeland-Hanzus, thank you so much for joining us today on Blue Diligence. We're so honored to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so let's jump right in. I know that our viewers are going to be very excited to hear what you have to tell them about election security here in Vermont and more broadly about how your office functions. So to start off with, you succeeded former Secretary of State Jim Kondos, who had served in that capacity for 12 years. So what changes, if any, have you made since being elected in 2022?
Well, one of the realities that that we are working on right now is that early on or just before Secretary Kondos became Secretary of State, this office had shifted most of its functions from being paper to being online, and the ability to do business registrations online, the ability to manage our statewide voter checklist electronically. And so because those systems were built more than a dozen years ago, they are now at the point where we need to be building the next version. So our teams have been very busy with the RFP process and the putting together specs for the project, and now we're in various stages of rebuilding 4 different IT systems within the Secretary of State's office, which is a tremendous undertaking because you sort of have to build that plane while you're flying the current one, which has been wild. It's been a wild ride. So definitely focusing on, replacing that IT infrastructure that is so critical to us being able to serve Vermonters. But there's 2 other programs that I've really focused on that I want to talk about, because when I came into office, the Safe at Home program, which is our address confidentiality program for victims of stalking or domestic violence or human trafficking, was expanded by legislative enactment to include either providers or recipients of certain kinds of protected healthcare classes, like reproductive health care or gender affirming care. We wanted to make sure that as we implement this expansion of the Safe at Home program, that we really gear up our outreach so that more Vermonters know about the program and can find out how to apply. And then we also want to bring that program out of the paper era, because currently you have to download an application from our website and literally fill it out and mail it in. So we will be working on creating a secure portal for Safe at Home participants to be able to apply and then update their information instantly and electronically. And of course, we'll still offer the paper option for folks who need that, but we know increasingly that being able to offer that digital access is very important. And the other thing that I really wanted to talk about was our education and civic engagement program. So this is a program that didn't exist previously under the Condos administration, and I felt so passionately that we need to do a better job of helping Vermonters understand how to do democracy, right? Many schools over the last decades have ratcheted back their civics requirements for high school kids. And so as time has gone on, there are fewer and fewer people who really understand how government works, because they didn't necessarily have a class in school that taught them that. If you don't understand how government works, then it's easier to fall prey to misinformation about stolen elections. And if you don't understand how government works, you don't know how to make it work for you. And so I'm really focusing our education and civic engagement program on helping people understand how can you ask your government to fix a problem that's too big for you to fix on your own. So we've been going out into high schools, engaging with students, getting them registered to vote. We'll be doing tabling and engagement out in the communities all over the state this summer. So keep an eye out for us. We'll be at a fair or a festival or a farmer's market near you. We are also in the civics program, we're going to be creating the first ever voter guide, so that when you get your November election ballot, you will also get access to your voter guide. And your voter guide will have a definition of all of the offices that you're voting for, because how do you know how to choose the right state's attorney if you don't understand what a state's attorney does, right? But then I wanted to make sure that we can create a voter guide so that you look at your ballot and the voter guide is laid out in the same order. And that's a little bit of a logistical challenge, but I think we've got it figured out, and it will be available when your general election ballot arrives early fall.
That's fantastic. All 3 of those sound like amazing programs. And if our viewers wanted to access those, would they just go on to the vermont.gov site and search out either one of those, Safe at Home or your civics work?
Yes. So if you do use your favorite search engine and look for Vermont Safe at Home program, and that should bring you to the Secretary of State's website where you can get information about the Safe at Home program. And for information about voting, about how to register, or maybe to update your voter registration, you want to do your search engine for My Voter Page Vermont, and that will bring you to mvp.vermont.gov. You put in your particular information like your driver's license number or last four of your social, and you can call up your voter registration information. You can update your address if it's changed. You can update your registration if you've moved from one Vermont community to another. You can also register to vote for the first time through our online voter registration page. And then ultimately in the fall, when the general election voter guide comes available, you'll be able to access it first through your My Voter page.
Fantastic. And let's move on to, most people do associate the Secretary of State with elections, but what are some of the other functions of your position here in Vermont?
Yeah, so we've talked about two of the special programs, Safe at Home and the education and civic engagement. The third special program of our office is temporary officiants. Many people decide that Vermont would be a lovely place to get married. And oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if Aunt Charlene could be the one who conducts our wedding? But sadly, she's not a justice of the peace in Vermont, and she's not a member of the clergy. So we have a temporary officiants program where you can bring in your own wedding conductor. That comes through an application to our office, and so that's a fun little special program that brings us in contact with some people who are doing a very happy thing in finding their life partner. But we also have three other major divisions of the organization. We run the state archives, and so we have a giant warehouse in Middlesex that holds so much information. It is just a wealth of and a treasure of information about Vermont, about Vermont government. What has your government done on your behalf? Why did the legislature make that decision back in 1973 that we're still dealing with today? All of those questions can be answered and more with a little bit of research at our archives. And increasingly, many of those pieces of information are also available online. And so welcome you to poke around in the Vermont State Archives and see if there's any answers to questions that you have.
That's an extraordinary resource. Yeah.
Yes, and it's so much fun because we really do believe in the transparency of government, right? Living in a democracy, it's important to have well-run elections, but it's also very important to make sure that people can see what government is doing and has done on their behalf. And so in that way, the archives are very linked to our core function here as the Secretary of State. The other two major divisions are our business services division that registers, tens or hundreds of thousands of businesses across the state, and our Office of Professional Regulation, which either licenses or registers, 50-something different professions, anything from tattooists and hairstylists to well drillers and architects and more. So those two divisions came in really handy this past summer. So when historic flooding hit up and down the state of Vermont in July, we had a couple of executive orders that we worked with the governor on regarding making sure that we have the workforce necessary to help people clean up, dig out, and rebuild after the floods. And of course, some of those providers of services are professionals who we have a touch point with through our Office of Professional Regulation. And some of those businesses who offer some of those services are registered here in Vermont. So we have a touch point with our business services division. So we use the power of those two divisions to communicate out proactively to businesses. Hey, do you have a service or a product that you can offer right now to people who are desperately trying to replace the furnace or the hot water heater or whatnot? do you need help or services because your business was impacted by flooding? And we were able to share that information out in order to help Vermonters get answers faster.
Yeah, that's incredible. You would never even think of a resource like that, and yet that's, the kind of thing that government can be so helpful with in a time of emergency like that.
We certainly
An
hope so.
amazing thought. Yeah. Now, our third question for you, of course, is about the election itself. A big election year, a lot of buzz, especially about the national elections. So, as the Vermont Secretary of State, what can you tell us about the integrity and security of our Vermont election process here?
So in Vermont, we take that very seriously, and it is the role of our office to make sure that our 247 local town and city clerks are well-trained, well-supplied, and well-equipped to conduct our elections. So what that gives us in Vermont is, almost 250 independently sworn elections administrators for a population that's about the size of the city of Boston. So it really is a team effort. And a lot of the things that those town and city clerks do to maintain our elections and to ensure that they are secure and safe and accessible to every eligible voter really go under the radar. A lot of people don't pay any attention to all of the steps that your clerk takes in order to make sure our elections work. One of the things that they're working on right now, because we are sort of in this lull between the presidential primary and the statewide primary, is they're working on checklist maintenance. And that is basically going through the voter checklist, taking the data that we have provided them from ERIC, which is the electronic Registration Information Center. This is an interstate compact that shares data about who's moved in, who's newly gotten a driver's license, who has died in our state. And we share that across state boundaries so that states can be alerted when someone has gotten a Massachusetts driver's license. Perhaps that means the person has moved to Massachusetts. And so we provide that information to clerks, and they use it to contact voters who may have moved out of the community. But the reality is, even without that information that is provided through this interstate compact, your clerks have a really good handle on what's going on in town. They see the property transfers, and so they can tell when someone has sold their house. That might be an indicator. And so they might remember, oh, hey, the next time I see Sarah, at the grocery store, I'm going to say, oh, your house sold. Are you moving out of town? And so this service that they provide is really ongoing throughout the year, but it's a critical part of how we know our voter registration rolls are as up to date as they can be. When balloting starts, then our clerks are busy tracking the outgoing and incoming ballots, taking requests for your absentee ballot for the primary, and then also helping voters understand how to vote in the general election. As you know, we have automatic vote by mail for the general election. And the one thing that I want to remind folks is, if you don't feel like voting absentee in the general election, you don't need to. But if you want to make it smoother for yourself and for your town clerk on election day, BYOB, that is, bring your own ballot. Bring the one that you got in the mail to your voting place, and you can cast your ballot in person. And then, our town clerks maintain a very strict chain of custody for all of those paper ballots, and every single vote cast has a paper ballot that is associated with it. And that enables us to go back afterward and do an audit. And so at some point in December, we will do a full audit of the November general election. And typically what that finds is that our vote counting is very accurate, and that our tabulators do a really good job of tabulating our votes, and our hand count communities do a really good job of making sure that they are entering accurate hand counts. And this is really a team effort, and so I think we should be thinking of election security as a team effort, and you should thank your town or city clerk for the important role they play in that.
Fantastic. Secretary Copeland Hanses, thank you so much for coming and joining us today, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come down here and talk with us on Blue Diligence. Before I let you go, very briefly, in your time in your office, what have you seen that gives you hope for the future of our democracy?
You know what I see? I see young people coming out and advocating for change. And I find that to be so inspiring, because these young people are going to be living on this earth long past when you and I are gone. And increasingly, they're seeing things that they want to change, and they're getting out and they're getting active. They're coming to the State House to petition lawmakers to make change. They're contacting their public officials, and they're also paying attention to how to vet candidates when it's their turn to vote, so that they'll be able to ask the candidate, hey, what are you going to do to fix this problem that I see? I find that so inspiring, and it gives me great hope for the future. We're in good hands if we can get these young people activated.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Up next, Springfield Voices, where we take time to highlight the people and events that shape our unique town. On this episode, we'll hear from Chris Levancy, a social studies teacher at the Springfield High School, and his AWARE class students. Now, I'll pass it on to Steve Matush at Springfield High School.
Hello everybody, this is Steve Matush at Springfield High School, doing the Springfield Voices segment of Blue Diligence, and we're here today talking with teachers and students who are involved in the AWARE program at the Springfield High School. And I guess we should start out with the lead teacher, Chris Levancy, and we've got Olga Rivera-Williams, who works with the kids here also. Maybe give us a little background on the program. We'll go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. One of the kind of origins of this stemmed from a freshman seminar class that asking students what they'd like changed in the school was our final project. And every year, for a number of years, one of the things that they were asking for was a place and a space where they could meet as a group and talk about issues and things that were concerning them. Among those issues being a history of racial comments and prejudice and other things that were happening in the school. And so students of color asked for and wanted a place where they can talk about and discuss those issues, feel safe in that space, do kind of outreach and education in the community. And so there was a group called AWARE that was formed in Brattleboro a number of years ago, and this is a kind of a partnership with that in terms of we took the name and continued with that. And we've done a number of activities, conferences in Boston, Rutland, Burlington, as part of trying to raise the Black Lives Matter, had a demonstration downtown that had several hundred people at it, and a number of activities that they've been doing trying to educate themselves and their communities around issues that are happening specifically around them in the school. So.
AWARE is not just for Black and brown students. It is open to all students in the high school. It's to make them aware of any issues that come up, not just on color and race,
Yeah.
everything.
Gender,
All
ability,
facets of discrimination. Okay.
and standing in solidarity to end those things. So,
Okay.
Great, thank you. And with that, I think that what we should do is interview some of the students who are involved. I'd like them to introduce themselves, tell a little bit about why they joined this group, and to add anything else they would like to about the program.
Hi, my name's Ella. I'm a 10th grader at Springfield High School, and I joined AWARE originally because a few of my friends had joined, and they introduced me to the club, and I thought, hey, this could be a fun time to spend time with my friends at lunch, and, you know, just a good way to spend the time. And then I stayed for the hopeful atmosphere that it generates. there's a lot of good change that I think we've done, and also just a lot of positivity that we've spread in the club. So, and I think what's most important about Aware is the fact that it allows different voices to be heard, because we celebrate different cultures, we bring light to different problems going around, and there is obviously a lot of discrimination and racism and hatred in our world, and regardless of whether or not we're talking about it on a global level or maybe even just in our town, it's still an important problem to address. So Aware allows for that to be done in a way that's beneficial, but also, safe and fun, and you get to meet new people and making some great friends.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to Maya. Maya?
Hi, my name is Maya. I am a sophomore at Springfield High School. Ella pretty much summarized it, but I joined Aware because it was similar to a club that I had been in middle school called Youth in Action, which was run by my, at the time, social studies teacher, Becca Polk, who's now Becca Lane. But I've always been someone who's really been interested in seeing a change, and I think for me, Aware is just a safe space for people to, I guess it's a quote I heard, I forgot who said it, but be the change we want to see in the world. So we want to create equality, we want people to feel safe in their school, and that's really what Aware is for a lot of people, is a safe space and a place to create change, as I said. And so around the school, we hear a lot of disrespectful language that is harmful to people feel like they've been discriminated against. And we know that this stems from ignorance a lot of the time. So as said already by Ms. Williams and Liebenseek, that Aware is making others aware and educating them so they don't say more hurtful things.
My name is Just Lady, and the reason why I enjoy Aware is because my friends, they was here, and after they stay, I find it was really fun to stay because we did some projects. We talk about the issues in the school, but we also talk about the issues in the Springfield, how people with different color and also sexuality are affected in the school and all the town.
My name is Emily. I'm a sophomore at Springfield High School. I've been in Aware this is my second year, and I joined last year because my advisor was heading the group, and I just was noticing a lot of stuff going on in the school that I didn't like, and that a lot of people were getting mistreated by their peers in a space that's supposed to be safe and fair. So when we had a club fair, I signed up, and I've just been made a lot more aware of what's going on. We've been participating in projects and bulletin boards to educate people on what's wrong and why they need to stop certain behaviors or what to look out for, and just been trying to better the environment at our high school.
I originally joined Aware because my friends brought me here, but after I stayed here for a while, there's a lot of dumb stuff that gets said, and I want to help not let so much dumb stuff be said, I guess. And it's a cool place to hang out.
Maybe you'd like to tell us a little bit about the programs. You mentioned some programs you guys were involved with. What kind of things have you been involved with? Anybody?
I love this.
We've been involved with, we worked with the Brattleboro group, who also have an Aware, and we've also gone to, I can't exactly remember the name, but it was we went to a theater yes, and it was, the theater was showcasing the Black experience, where a bunch of these really talented Black singers, creators, writers, I don't know, I can't really think of all the different talents that were showcased, but it was a good way to bring light to all the talented Black people in our community, and it was pretty fun, I think. And yeah.
So for Black History Month last year, we worked on researching and recreating in paper what were called freedom quilts. So there were quilt squares that were sewn into quilts historically that, like during slavery, that like each square had a code, a certain thing it meant. And so we worked on researching what each one meant, and then we recreated a board. We made a board that we put up in the school with a paper recreation of each square and a description of what it meant. And again, that was in hopes of bringing this to light and educating more of our peers. I think AWARE isn't really known, like when we put up posters or we make bulletin boards, like people see the name AWARE on it, or they hear us talking about it and they're like, what's AWARE? What do they even do? And one of our recent goals that we've been talking about in meetings is really making ourselves known and putting ourselves out there. We're going to present at the assembly that's coming up later this week, hopefully, if we have it done on time. We don't think we're very known, but like I said, that's one of our big goals, is to expand what people know about us.
And I would add one more thing that maybe none of you have mentioned yet, but I think for the district, and it kind of went away a little bit during COVID, but we're doing regular MLK celebration events at the rec center and other places where K through 12 people could participate with speeches. I know the first and second graders would do songs and plays, and we bring a lot of Springfield families to that location to spend the day and talk about this and share food and do art around that. And so it was a regular thing that we were doing, and again, it kind of dissipated with COVID, and we're trying to ramp that back up, but that was a big community connection and celebration that you all were doing and has been done as part of AWARE as well.
You did a really nice job, and I hope you've created an opportunity for the rest of the community to be a little more aware. With that, thank you.
I would say one thing that it's hard for you to know, but you're an inspiration for us as teachers and what we do in our curriculum, things around hiring and pushing for change in the district and in our schools too. And so you may not see it so directly, but it's really, really, and I'm sure Ms. Williams and Ms. C can speak to this too, it really motivates us to stay focused on this and keep working at this in spite of kind of apathy and other things that, or people resistant to change. And so you all have been a great inspiration over the course of all of this to keep us focused as teachers in a district to try to work towards change. So, so much appreciated for you all and what you do.
Good job, everybody.
A big thanks to Secretary of State Sarah Copeland Hansis and Springfield High School's AWARE class for being on our show today. And thank you so much for tuning in to Blue Diligence. The Springfield Democratic Town Committee is committed to connecting Springfield's voices. We want to thank the terrific staff here at Springfield Area Public Access for all their support in getting our show on the air. Thanks also go out to our musicians and graphic designer. If you'd like to reach out to us, we'd love to hear from you. You can send emails to springfield.vt.dems@gmail.com. You can find our Instagram at Springfield_VT_Dems. We would love to get your questions, comments, or criticisms. Seriously, we can take it. And who knows, we may even read your message on a future episode. Thanks again for joining us, and remember, stay diligent. Our democracy might just depend on it.
Down by the bank